Hi, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe, Christina, Wild Rose, Lauren, Chris, Michael B. Petty, That British Unicorn, Jam Beans, Debbie Elliott, and D. Higgins. So if you guys want to know how I got this look and also what I have to say about financial literacy and AmberLynn Reid, well, keep watching. So there's a few videos that I want to cover that are basically what I like to call React adjacent. It's essentially exploring one aspect of AmberLynn or Chantel's lives and just sort of going through and explaining kind of my thought process, what I'm thinking of, things that they should be considering if you are in that position, things that you should be considering, and just exploring it in further detail. Because I feel like I sprinkle it out like throughout my videos. I talk about, like, touch on those topics briefly, but I never really go into detail and like talk about them, you know? So the last one that I did was on Chantel, and it was talking about, what was it talking about? My memory's terrible. Wow. I can't remember. Hold on, let me check. It was about whether or not Chantel should start an OnlyFans. My God, I am just so... That was bad. This one is about AmberLynn and financial literacy and essentially the reckless way that she spends money and the sort of stuff that she should keep in mind if, you know, moving forward in life, and how she should consider saving her money and the things that she needs to consider when she's saving money. So I thought we would do that today. We're going to be doing this get ready style. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I kind of want to talk about something that I've sent out as a present to one of you lovely people. It's this. It's the ColourPop Garden Variety palette. This is probably one of the best palettes that ColourPop has ever released. Like, look how stunning. And it's got such a good variety of color. It's got a good amount of depth in it. It's really, really versatile. You can make a lot of like everyday neutral friendly looks. You can also make a lot of really like poppy, colorful looks. And I haven't really planned out what kind of look I'm going to be doing, but I think I want to go with something a little bit more extra. So let's see. Let's get started, shall we? So I'll put everything that I'm using, as I always do, in the description down below, so you guys can always go check that out in case I don't mention it, because sometimes I get so absorbed in talking I don't mention it. But I am using a new foundation because I finally used up the entirety of the other bottle that I have, but now I filled it with a different foundation, so you'll probably see the bottle again. It has a different foundation in it. Most of my foundations for some reason don't have a pump, which like in 2021 is absolutely inexcusable. But the foundation I'm using right now, it's the Makeup Forever HD foundation in, there is no color on this. Interesting. Okay, this just says V355. I can't read. V345. So, I guess that's the color? I don't remember. I thought it was called like Punjab or something. Maybe I'm thinking of the NARS foundation. I'm using one of my favorite brushes of all time. This is the Airbrush OMG foundation brush in number 106 by It Cosmetics. I don't like a lot of its like facial products, and I think that their CC cream, which I think looks absolutely lovely on the skin, smells like absolute puke. But their brushes are like fantastic. Okay, so let's get started. AmberLynn and financial literacy. I'm sure you guys are aware, if you have watched any of AmberLynn's videos, that Amber likes to spend a lot of money. There's a variety of different reasons why I think she does this. One of them is for content for her channel. Obviously, you know, there's not a lot that Amber can do physically, but if she can spend money and like do a haul or something like that and create content, then, you know, it's a good idea. I think for the most part, if you are getting more out of it than you put into it, you know? So say if you're spending $40 or $50 on a haul, whatever, but then your video makes like $300, $500. I don't know how much she makes. She probably makes a lot more than that. But, you know, you make a lot more than that, then it might be worth it, right? And if you are smart about it, you can write it off as a business expense, and it will be deducted from your income, which I really hope that Amber and Chantel are doing. So it might be worth it if they're doing something like that. That said, overall, Amber displays a pretty lackluster approach to conserving her money. Now, I've taken a look at her Social Blade accounts. I'll throw the numbers up here because I don't remember them at the top of my head. But, you know, she doesn't make an inconsiderable amount of money. She's not making, I mean, she's not like making millions upon millions every year, but she's not doing too badly. And she lives in a state where the average cost of living is like $81, right? Like in Lexington, not like overall in this state, which is not a dig at Lexington, by the way. It's just a statement of fact. It is not a very expensive place. If you are living in San Francisco, California, that's going to be different. If you're living in New York City, it's going to be different, right? So her cost of living is pretty low. So she could be doing a lot better, even with her being a YouTuber and spending money on her YouTube channel. I don't think she is, though. We've seen just sheer the amount of like clothes and stuff that she buys, and then she'll donate them, she'll give them away. She doesn't really do anything else with that. She doesn't return things very often. She also eats out a lot. And outside of it being an issue for her health, eating out that often is also expensive, right? And she likes to, you know, like Starbucks drinks and whatnot. There is nothing wrong with treating yourself to a nice meal. There's nothing wrong with getting Starbucks. Heck, if you've got the money and you want to get a Starbucks drink every single day, that's fine. Just understand that A, it's expensive, and that B, it comes, like there is a price to it, right? There's the monetary price and the health price. She essentially basically just spends whatever she has on whatever she wants. And normally, as an adult, to another adult, I would not care, even if they're being a little bit careless. The problem with Amber that I found is that I don't think she's really matured past a certain point in her development. She has had a lot of trauma in her life, and stunted emotional growth is a sign of trauma in your like developmental years. So I'm not surprised by that. I also know that she didn't grow up with a lot of money, like she wasn't very financially stable when she was younger. And so now, because she has so much, I'm sure that she wants to express how much she cares about people, and the way that she does it is by lavishing them with gifts. It's a communication style. It's a form of expressing your love to people. I do something similar, not like buy stuff for everybody, but I like to bake things for people and take them over to their house. And like, that's sort of what I do, right? That's how I show that I care about people. I'm not very like outwardly expressive. I don't like to say, I love you to people. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable to always be like, hey, I love you, whatever, especially to like, I'll say it to my siblings, I'll say it to like partner, but I don't generally tend to say my friends very often. But I do love them. I do care about them. And the way that I like to express it is, you know, let me do nice things for you. Let me bake you something and bring it over. Let me, oh, you're not feeling well? Let me, you know, watch your kid for you so that you can go take a shower and wash some bottles. Let me make some meal for you and bring it over to your house. That's generally how I operate. Like that's kind of how I do it. It makes sense to me that, it makes sense to me that now that she has some amount of funds, that's what she's doing. By the way, I used erase paste under my eyes like always. This is never going to end. I had 2 of these. I didn't realize, and now I'm using the other one. It's going to take me like 8 years to use it all up. I hate it. It's okay. I don't hate it. It's just, it tends to crinkle under my eyes. And then the powder that I'm using, this container is the same one as the oil-free container, but this is not that powder. It's the one that comes in the oregano shaky cheese looking container. I'll throw the thing up here. I don't remember at the top of my head right now. And then as always, I'm going to be using my Kat Von D high voltage prime and correct on my eyes as a primer. I need a primer. I have pretty deep set eyes. If you don't have deep set eyes, you can get away with just wearing concealer and a little powder on your eyes. But if you've got deep set eyes, especially if you've got oily lids like I do, you need a primer. Otherwise, a lot of ColourPop shadows I found, especially the shimmery ones, tend to just sort of vanish from my eyes, or they tend to like migrate up and you see that line and it looks really, really gross after a little bit. I like it occasionally, like that gross sort of crusty makeup look, because it makes me feel like a rock star, you know, after doing a set on stage. But most of the time I like looking pretty polished, so. So I understand why she's doing it. I understand her kind of thought process behind it. That said, I think she needs to sort of realize, I think Amber needs a lot of self like awareness, which is generally a problem. I find a lot of people who have like mental health issues tend to lack, not across the board, but people who have like issues with food especially, they tend to lack a lot of self-awareness, because if they had the self-awareness, they would realize that like, oh, what I'm doing is self-destructive and it's not helpful. But when you have issues with food and you've got mental health issues, I'm speaking for myself and also what I've observed in a lot of other people, both in my personal life and of course on YouTube, it's that they will not realize that the reason that they're eating food right now is directly connected to a negative emotion they experienced. The color I'm putting on my highlight right now is Prickly Please. And I'm just sort of using it as a very soft color. I'm going to try and do, I've been thinking of doing this for a while, like a reverse sort of eye darkening thing. I don't know. Let's see. It's probably going to look atrocious, but whatever. We are here to play, okay? So I don't think she realizes that a lot of her sort of the reason why she's doing something is to like sort of take away from a negative emotion that she might have felt. And that's why she's eating. It's to soothe that, right? Sometimes it's just as much as, oh, okay, I read something and it upset me. And, you know, a little while later, you're like, oh, I'm just going to go eat something. And you don't realize, you don't put the two and two together that this is a direct result of that, even if you're not thinking of it on a conscious level. A lot of this stuff tends to manifest on a subconscious, in a subconscious way. This is called Over the Bloom. Once more, using that to just sort of buff it into my crease. And up onto my brow bone, just a little bit, not too much though, just very soft. I want this to be very soft out here, no harsh lines, as it were. But this is not conducive to long-term health. Now, Amber's mental health and honestly her physical health are precarious, right? They're both very, very much so linked, and she has very, very poor both mental and physical health. But there's another aspect that she should consider, and that's her financial health. Fun fact, say if the average age of retirement is about 65, right? It could be more, could be less, but say the average age of retirement is 65, and Amber retires around that time, right? First of all, most people don't realize you need about 75 to 85% of your pre-retirement income to sustain yourself post-retirement. And that's just for just like regular stuff, right? That's like food, electricity, you need a new pair of Nikes, whatever, you know, you need to keep Becky in baseball caps. All of those things are what's counted in that. And that's like per couple. So that's a lot of, so say if you're used to spending right now $100,000 in a year on just like stuff for you and your spouse, you're going to need like $75,000 to $85,000 when you retire. That is a lot of money to save. And say if you're retiring at 65 and the average age for a woman, like when they expire is, if I remember correctly, it's 81, right? So that's 16 years. That is so much money to be saving up. And there is the added problem with both Becky and with Amber that both of them are in very poor health. Now I'm using the color Stuck on You. It's like a dark purple, and this is where the opposite sort of thing comes in. I'm gonna use it to darken my inner corner. Both of them are, well, I guess overweight is a very generous way to put it. Both of them are obese. And I don't mean this as a dig. I just mean it as a statement of fact that they are both in a unhealthy weight group, right? Which means that their needs for medical care are going to be significantly different. Their needs for food are going to be different. All of their like needs and requirements are all going to be very different than say an average person. So one of the, like, I have some notes down here. I don't remember all statistics at the top of my head, so I won't remember. So I just have some stuff written down. So I looked up what the average cost would be for medical care. If you're overweight, the increase per year in cost for medical care is $266. But if you are obese, the cost is $1,723 extra on top of what you would spend anyway. And they would both, that's per person. So that's an additional $2,000 that you would need extra on top per year, you know, and that's if you have insurance, if you have decent insurance. Neither one of them have insurance right now, right? Becky is not employed in the traditional sense, and Amber has not actually purchased insurance, which I think, I don't know, it just seems so silly to me that she hasn't purchased insurance. I mean, everybody should get at least some form of health care. And I know that in the US that is like a luxury, but if you can afford it, choosing not to buy it, I think is silly, especially when you are in a precarious health condition, right? So I'm just using the dark purple, just taking little bits of it and just sort of building that color up. I put my brush down here because that's where I want it the darkest, and then I'll sort of diffuse it upwards and right sort of like into the crease area right here and a little bit above that. But then keeping it mostly focused right in here to give it that sort of appearance, you know, like that sort of snatched appearance. I don't know what this is going to end up looking like. I don't have a plan. I generally don't when I sit down to do makeup. I just sort of apply things onto my face until I like the way that they look. Another thing that Amber should probably consider is that she is a cancer survivor. And I hope to God that this never happens, but remission, she's in remission right now. That doesn't mean that she's always going to be in remission. That doesn't mean that she might not have cancer-related health expenses later on in life. And then that's, not even taking into consideration Becky's family history. If you guys have seen her most recent video, it's like a live. I'm actually going to do a react to that right after I'm done doing my makeup here and doing this video. Becky, she mentioned that Becky did not want to have biological kids because Becky has some, history of family stuff, like family health problems. And that's understandable, right? Every family has it to a certain extent, but Becky's family might have a higher likelihood of it. That's, that sucks. And, I wish that wasn't true, but, it's smart of Becky to take that into consideration when deciding whether or not she wants to have kids. I commend her for that. That's a very ethical approach, I think. That said, that does mean that maybe, that unfortunately she might have more health concerns later on. She might have considerations that other people might not have. Now, I don't know what the details of this are, so it's entirely possible that it's stuff that isn't really impacting Becky, like genetic conditions, for example, that she's scared of passing on to her children, but that she herself doesn't have. She's just a carrier for. But we don't know that for a fact. It's entirely possible that Becky herself will have some of these problems moving forward, right? And speaking of kids, that's another avenue that she should kind of just keep in mind. I'm now using the color Smudge Off. It's like a purpley, like a dark purpley color. And I'm just brushing it gently onto the inner portion of my lid. It's a nice color. It's a lot more muted than I thought it would be. So a little surprised by that, but let's see if I can build it up a little. Purples are always a little hard too. Now, this is shiny, but it's like a little darker. I've used this palette a few times, but I haven't really played with this color quite as much. Oh, that looks pretty nice. I like that. Okay, yeah, I like that. So the average cost of raising a child to the age of 17, so not including college, is $233K, right? And that's assuming you have one kid. Now, Becky and Amber are, fun fact if you didn't know, they're gay. Which means that some places might not actually allow adoption for them, which I think is absolutely freaking ridiculous. I think that is so goddamn dumb. But I do see the extra challenges that that could present, meaning that you might have to do a person-to-person like adoption, or you might have to do a foreign adoption, which can mean that there's a lot more costs associated with it, you know? They can potentially do a surrogacy. I don't really know what Amber's exact hysterectomy was, but depending on what her hysterectomy was, she could have genetic children through surrogacy. But if they did a full hysterectomy, which is they removed everything, including her ovaries, that option might not be open to her if she hasn't already preserved some eggs, you know. And if Becky's genetic problems are the reason why she doesn't want to become pregnant, then those are still going to be there if they choose surrogacy with Becky. So, you know, the color I'm now using is called Synergy. So there's going to be those costs as well that you want to keep in mind. I'm actually going to use my finger. It's a very pretty color. It's like a soft pinky color, like this. So there's those additional costs that you want to keep in consideration. You want to keep in mind, right? You'll also have to pay for all of that. And then if you want to do like an international adoption, that can be really expensive. And then, you know, if you want to have more than one kid, say for college, or you want to have more than one kid, that's even more money. And I mentioned before that YouTube is a very, very fickle beast. Your YouTube revenue can go away at any time, right? So like YouTube is not very clear in what they deem as like the cutoff, right? So for example, if you guys don't know who Onision is, he just got demonetized, and despite the fact that he's literally been a raging monster on the internet for years, the level of his douchebaggery knows no bounds, and yet him and his husband just got demonetized. What the heck, YouTube? So YouTube isn't particularly clear on why it does things, when it does things. And so you might not know when you're going to get demonetized. So waiting until that point to figure out an additional plan is maybe not very smart, right? Diversify is what I'm trying to say to her. And by the way, the cost of childcare, right now I'm just including basic necessities, right? Food, clothes, you know, if you need to put them into daycare, stuff like that, right? Like average stuff, essentially what I'm saying. I'm not including things like taking them on vacation, you know, sending them to a schnazzy private school, stuff like that is not included in this. So anything like that you want to do, you have to build into it. And children are so expensive. Oh my God. I've said before, I live on the West Coast, so stuff here is a little bit more expensive anyway, but seriously, dude, I've got like friends of mine who are sending their kids to like swimming and whatnot. Each class, I think in a month you get like 4 classes, and it's like $250 or something. It's so crazy. It's so expensive. Kid stuff is so expensive. So all of that stuff is stuff you want to keep in consideration because they do have an impact on development. They grow the brain in different ways. So if you want to be the best parent you can be, or try and provide, I take that back, not the best parent that you can be, but if you want to try and provide for your kids every advantage that you can, which what a lot of parents will want to do, right? Within their means, they'll try and do everything they can to make sure their kids succeed. Then, you know, it's going to cost you more, including trips and vacations. And that's not even stuff, you know, like, I'll tell you for a fact, I wanted to go on a trip when I was in high school. All of my classmates were going, I forget what it was, but it was like an overnight trip somewhere. And it cost so much money. Well, what I thought was so much money at that point. It had been like $600 for the trip. And I couldn't afford it. That was the simple fact of it. We couldn't afford it. And I knew my parents couldn't afford it. But if I asked, they would have scraped every penny they had together and they would have made it happen, right? And so I didn't ask. I didn't want to put them in that position. And kids are a lot more perceptive than you give them credit for. So if you adopt and, you know, your kids are in this position where you don't have enough money to pay for stuff that they need or they want, they might not even ask. They might just be sad about it. And it's not to say that I resented my parents for it or anything like that, or even that I, am unhappy about it. But yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, this was a juniors and seniors could go on this trip. I felt so left out because pretty much everybody in my school went other than me. I am using Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer, which is probably my favorite bronzer, unfortunately, which means that once this runs out, I'm going to have to find another one because I don't like Too Faced and I don't want to purchase from them. So you want to keep all of that in consideration, Another thing, the last thing, is housing. Housing is a big problem moving forward in life. A lot of older people actually end up becoming homeless because they don't have anywhere to live. Now, Amber right now has a lot of money. I think the smartest thing for her to do would be to buy a house. I can understand that she doesn't want to live in Lexington forever. That is perfectly fair. That is perfectly understandable. But Lexington is still a great city, which means that you will be able to put that house up on rent if you want to move. So put that there and you will be able to generate revenue from it, right? And it can also be a nice fail-safe in the future. So say if you are, 65, 70 years old and you're like, I, don't have anywhere else to go. I can't afford a house and I'm going to go back to California again here because Amber's mentioned that's where she's from. So she can't go back to California, because it's like really expensive. California properties are crazy, right? So say she's like, well, I can't afford a house here and, we don't have anywhere to go right now. Well, I still have that house in Lexington. Let me go back. We can just move in there. So it's a good fail-safe to have, and Becky's family is there. And even if you don't ever decide to come back there, Becky's family is not all going to be moving, which means that you will be able to write every flight that you take back to Lexington as a business expenditure if you at least go and visit your property one time and address some of your tenants, basically their issues or whatever, right? Just go and have a conversation with them, and that will mean that you can write that as a business expense, and that can also save you money. The other, even if she buys a property now, so the average price of property in Lexington is about $250K. She can buy a house and basically pay it off within a couple of years if she's careful. She can buy one that's cheaper, smaller and cheaper, that's closer to downtown where people will be more rentable. She can live in it herself while she does, put all of her rent towards mortgage payments instead, and she can pay that place off and essentially just live rent-free, save up her money so she can buy a house somewhere where she actually does want to live, somewhere that's probably going to end up being more expensive, I genuinely think that would be the smarter way to do it. Property is one of the, buying land generally, buying property tends to be one of the safest investments because for the most part, unless there's something really wrong in the long term, most of the price of this stuff just tends to go up. Another thing that she will need money for is, maintenance for the house, taxes for the house, all this stuff that she will have to save for. I'm not saying that, she should do all of this now. I'm just saying these are all things that she needs to bring up with somebody who's much more capable of helping her plan her finances out than she is, right? And that's, once more, not a dig at AmberLynn. Not everybody has gone to school and become a chartered accountant. Not everybody knows how to do financial planning. I don't know how to do financial planning that well either, right? I just know that these are things that I have to keep in mind. So when I go to see a finance person, I can tell them, hey, these are all of my concerns. These are all the things that I want to save for. And then they can essentially advise me on how best to make sure that those needs are met going forward. That's what Amber needs to do. Now, she said that she'd spoken to she said that she'd spoken to a person. She's spoken to a finance person. But I don't know what that means, because Amber also said that she was speaking to a therapist, but she essentially went to one appointment and then didn't go back again. So did she do the same? Did she go to see a financial expert, spoke to them once and was like, okay, I've gotten everything out of this that I think I'm going to get, and then left? Is she still seeing them? Are they managing her portfolio? Did she hire someone? And of the things she's learned, is she implementing any of them? The way that she's spending her money right now, I would not think so. And I mean, I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope that she has accounted for all of this. But from all the evidence I've seen, I don't really see anything that would indicate that she is in fact doing any of these things, that she is in fact taking her financial health seriously, that she is in fact taking her long-term prospects seriously. And now that they're getting married, she has to consider not just herself but also Becky. You know, Becky, she said that I think Becky gets commissions for her artwork, which is fantastic. I'm glad, once more, you know, diversifying your revenue stream. But that is also not something that's going to stably provide you with income. This is also one of those things that's very dependent on, you know, your notoriety online, people wanting to support you, you know, just the economy. When people don't have as much money, they're unwilling to throw it away on things like art. That's very dismissive of art. I think art has a lot of value, but they're unwilling to invest money on things like art when they need it for things like food, you know? Overall, the way that I look at Amber's financial situation, it's that she has a lot of money at her disposal. But rather than doing anything with it that would give her dividends long term, provide for her long term, she's using it to satisfy every urge that she has now, the same way that she does with food. And unlike with food, money is something that you can store for later use. By the way, this is the e.l.f. Pout Prefector. I love this stuff. It is the shiniest lip gloss, and it gives me like outer space babe lips, like I'm a robot. Like it's so shiny. I love it. The highlighter that I'm using is the Laura Gellar highlighter in the color Baked highlighter in French Vanilla. It's one of the best highlighters, very, very natural, as you can see. And then the eyebrow products that I used were the Anastasia de Brow Pomade. I'm pretty much out of this. I really don't recommend this product. It is a huge amount. It will dry out well before you can ever really use the whole thing. And when it's fresh, it's actually really difficult to use. It is far, far too pigmented. And you have to waste a lot, like getting it off your brush so you barely have any product on it. And then the eyebrow gel I used was the Benefit Ready Set Brow. It's fine. It's like a clear brow gel. I don't really have very unruly brows, so I don't really have anything to say about that. If Amber wants to avoid becoming destitute in her old age, I really, really think that she needs to get a handle on her financial situation. Given her gaps in employment history and her lack of formal education, she might not be as employable in the future as she is, as YouTube is making her right now, right? So she's making a lot of money right now, but if she has to get a different type of job, she might not be able to make anywhere near as much money. And once more, YouTube is very, very fickle. We don't know how long it's going to last. If she's lucky, it'll last as long as she wants it to. But most people don't get that option. Most people, for a variety of reasons, have to step away from YouTube because of, you know, YouTube demonetized, their platform's no longer growing, people are unsubscribing because it's just not content that's trending anymore. Very few people are able to continuously reinvent themselves. Sorry. What do you guys think of the eyeliner? Yeah, good. All right, I'm gonna do the other eye and then I'll continue talking. So, to kind of give you my wrapping thoughts on this. First of all, how does the look? I kind of like the dark inner eye and the lighter outer corners. I think it looks kind of cool. It's interesting, I think. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. It does make my nose look a lot, like this area look a lot more angular, which I had not, I mean, I thought it might, but I didn't realize how much it would do that. It does make them look a little closer together. Makes me look a little bit like a bird of prey, which is honestly kind of nice. I like it. So all in all, I guess my thought on this is that I worry about her moving forward. And I think if she doesn't get a handle on it now, with YouTube being as fickle as it is, this being so unpromised as it is, that she's not going to save anything for it now, assuming that this is going to continue forever. And one day the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath her and she's going to be left essentially destitute or close to destitute, scrambling to figure something out. There's a lot that she can do to really capitalize on YouTube. She can create merch. She can create like a Patreon. She can do a lot so that people can support her in ways that are not just dependent on YouTube ad revenue to make her future as stable as she possibly can. But she hasn't done any of that. Partially, I think, because it requires a lot of effort, and partially, I think, just because she doesn't think anything else will be successful. I think that is a grave misunderstanding of her situation. She does have a lot of supporters. I really, really, really think that she should start like a Patreon and like just a website where she can sell some of Becky's like art stuff. And I think that would do very well. And that will be it for the look. I hope you guys liked it. Overall, I would really recommend this palette. I really like it. I think that the smudge off color is maybe not as vibrant as I would have hoped, especially given how vibrant and deep it looks in the pan. It looks a little bit paler on my eyes, even with using a little bit of a setting spray to try and get some of that color onto my brush. It didn't come off as much as I would have liked, but overall it's a really, really lovely palette. It shows up very nicely, especially the mattes in here are fantastic. I like the color variety in here. The green in here is really nice. This color, Root 'em Up, is maybe one of my favorite colors. It's like a pukey green brown, and it's great. I think it looks fantastic. So highly recommend that to my subscriber who got the palette. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you didn't, or if it like sucks for you or something, or you just hated it. Just let me know overall what you thought. Anyway, that will be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated it, you can give me a thumbs down. That's totally okay, understandable, and acceptable. I respect everybody's opinions here. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below, and hit all if you want to know when I upload any video right away. I've got all my social medias linked down below. I've got Instagram, where I've got all my food stuff and my life stuff, but don't really have a life right now, so it's mostly just food. I've got Twitter, where I express some of my opinions. I pop off a little bit. It's also the easiest place to interact with me. And I've got Patreon. Think of Patreon as the tip jar for the internet. So if you like the job that I'm doing and you would like me to continue, hey, consider becoming a patron and throwing a few coins in my direction. You don't have to. It's not necessary. But if you did, I would appreciate it. You can also become a community member. And, you know, I've got a variety of perks for both my patrons and my community members. So check that out, all down below. All the stuff I'm wearing on my face is also all linked down below. And as always, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace. Plans are for suckers. I say that as I'm telling her to make a financial plan. I'm going to edit that out. No one needs to know that.